Hi there. So this is a wee bit different from the way I usually do videos for you, but it's based on an article that my tax manager sent over this morning, and I think it's really, really important to share. So it's the fact that HMRC from the next tax year are going to be targeting personal expenditure. So they've run a digital campaign in or trial campaign in 2024 to look at anybody preparing an income tax self-assessment. So that's sole traders, partners, landlords, and making sure that they're not claiming tax relief for personal expenditure whenever they're doing their returns. So the trial itself generated over £27 million of tax revenue. And I think, yeah, it just makes it low hanging fruit and easy pickings for the taxman to go after. And my recent experience with clients would suggest that actually, once they've decided something's not liable, they just will dig their heels in and say it's not liable, and you won't have a hope in hell really of getting it through. So, if you've sailed a little bit close to the wind previously, or if you've maybe put your whole mobile phone bill through whenever actually you use it personally as well, these are things that the HMRC are going to be challenging. And they're also encouraging agents like ourselves to prepare tax returns for you to be a lot firmer and to challenge you a lot more, to make sure that in the 24-25 tax returns that we prepare for you, we are making sure we identify where there might be personal usage. We're making sure we communicate and that that's disallowable, and that we go back and correct previous year's returns. Because once they find somebody in the 25-26 tax year who has claimed sort of personal expenditure as business expense, then they're just going to go back on every year, and it's not going to be fun. They're investing so heavily in people and AI to try and stop this sort of behaviour and to try and raise funds in whatever way they possibly can. So let's look at the rules. I thought it was worth actually just talking you through this article. So you'll have heard me bang on before that the legislation states that for an expense to be deductible, it must be incurred wholly and exclusively for the purposes of trade. And there's loads of links here. I can pop a link to this in the notes, but there's loads of links for the detailed guidance and all of these things. Then where you've got part of an expense that's partly trade and partly and partly personal, then you've got to disallow the personal part of it. And the method of apportionment, as it says here, has to be supported, and it has to be applied consistently from one year to the next. So you can't do something one way this year and then do it a completely different way the next year. It's got to follow a structure. Capital allowances, as it says here, for qualifying expenditure and plant machinery are allowable, but often this is for a vehicle, for perhaps, and then a deduction needs to be made if that vehicle is used for personal use as well. So this could impact, everybody that has a business van that's a sole trader. You might now have to add back or make some calculations to add back any personal usage. Again, repairs to premises can be deductible, but if the work amounts to improvement, costs would be capital in nature and should be disallowed. I think you hopefully all know that there is a flat rate simplified expenses that you can use. Again, I'll post a link to that. These are much, much easier, and HMRC will not query them, but typically they do tend to have a lower value, so there's less that you can claim if you're using simplified expenses. It's just easier and safer to do. So let's look at some of those ones that that basically come up in the simplified expenses, but you may choose to calculate in their entirety, because sometimes that makes sense. So, excuse me, travel and subsistence is a biggie. So everyday cost of meals is not liable. Meals and accommodation, I love their terminology, are allowable for itinerant trades or where they're incurred as part of travel outside the individual's normal pattern of travel. So, for example, if you're a site and self-employed site manager and you've got to go to different places every single day and different sites around the country, then your travel and subsistence would be allowed. However, if you're going to the same site every day, it won't be allowed. Likewise, if you are a sole trader and you're based in Manchester, but you need to go down to London for 2 days' work, then the travel and subsistence associated with that trip down to London will be allowable. So hopefully that makes sense on that. Vehicle expenses, again, you should be keeping mileage receipts so you can claim for the business use of mileage. That's the easiest way to do it. Travel costs between your home and your place of work, if that's a standard place of work that you go to all of the time, they're not liable, never are liable. However, if you're going from your business or your home to clients' premises in different places like that every day, then that is liable. Use of home, this is one that we get an awful lot. The use of home allowance is quite small for the year. It equates to about £6 per week. So a lot of people like to apportion their costs if they have a home office, but the rules around this are pretty strict actually. So that area has got to be purely for your business premises. So if it's your spare bedroom that you happen to have a desk in, and so other people stay in at certain times of year, then that's not going to necessarily work out. You've got to disallow the personal usage bit of it. So again, be careful about that. Entertaining is generally not deductible at all. And training costs is another one which it can be really, really frustrating, because while you're allowed to claim tax as a tax deductible expense for training that might be a refresher or an enhancement or some new CPD, if it's training that provides new knowledge or new skills, then that's not liable. So if you put yourself on an AI course because you want to build something new for your business in AI, that's a brand new skill, that's not going to be liable. If you are a management consultant and you want to train to be a chef, the training to be a chef is not going to be liable because that's a brand new skill. So I just thought it was probably worth running through this and making sure that you're not claiming for those football tickets that you used to put through thinking it's a bit of client entertainment and it's networking and it's of benefit to my business. The wholly and exclusively rules really are going to be stamped down upon, and you've just got to take the hit, I'm afraid, and make sure you're doing things right. So any questions, please feel free to ask. Thanks very much. Bye for now.